Thank you for joining us. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Miller. Our guest today is Javier Banos.
Thank you, Michael. How are you?
Good, I'm great. And Javier wants to be your Coral Gables commissioner.
That's true.
So tell us about the campaign, where you are today and where it's going to be tomorrow and next week.
Well, here's so the campaign is at the very end, last stretch. Okay. We have today's Tuesday, so there will be literally 2 weeks until Election Day. The election will be on April 13th. There will be early voting on the 10th and the 11th. But the reality is, Michael, that the election is already going on. Okay, voters received their absentee ballots on March 15th. So I want to encourage everyone to vote, to turn in your ballot, whichever way you decide to vote, hopefully for me, but to just go ahead and participate, become, embrace your right to select your leaders and go ahead and vote already.
If somebody wants to reach you, how can they do that?
They can do it at 305-519-5581. It's my personal cell phone, and I give it freely. I've been doing it for years, even before I ran for office, and I think it's the right way to run a practice as a CPA, as an attorney. That I've made that a custom. And what I find, which is I think is great, is most people are actually very respectful when you actually give them your personal cell phone. And clients call me, but they typically, if I tell them, hey, I'm with our family having dinner, do you mind? And they typically, don't have a problem delaying the conversation. So I found that a successful way to practice, and will continue to do so even after the election occurs.
And you've been on the pension board at City of Coral Gables for a few years, right?
Yes, what I've done is, I think if you're going to participate in government, you have to be involved on a daily basis, as much as you can and as much as time allows. And I've served in the pension board. I've made that a significant issue because I think the pension in the City of Coral Gables has to be modified, has to be reformed, it has to be fixed in a way that it doesn't become an albatross that will continue to hamper our ability to make other decisions and to invest in our city for the future. It costs about $30 million a year to fund the pension plan. That is
Let's
about
go over it again. So you have to put in $30 million
every single year
fund it.
To fully fund the plan, plus what the city has committed to fund to eat away at our existing liability, unfunded liability. And the unfunded liability, it's, the board says it's $200 million. My assessment, if they would do the numbers the way it's supposed to be done, it would be about $264 million. And that's a big chunk of cash for it to eat away at. So we want to take steps today to limit the ability going for the future, because that's really what the numbers are. We can't allow this balloon to continue to expand.
You mentioned about fully fund. That implies there's funding that's not full.
Right. So we have the unfunded liability for the plan. It's one of the least well-funded plans in Florida. Okay, we have a few others that are worse, but we're at 65%. I think that it's going to go up slightly this year because the returns were fairly good when we get the actual reporting a couple of months or maybe next month. But the problem that the plan has, and the problem all of us have as residents, because this is a mortgage we all have to pay on top of our regular home mortgage if we have one. It is a common liability we all carry as taxpayers. And it is important that if we're going to go ahead and manage that liability, that this legacy cost doesn't cost us so much that we can attend to other issues like sea level rise, which would be a major concerns, the expansion of parks, which is something the residents really truly want, and which I think COVID has illustrated the need for expansion of recreational areas in Coral Gables, as well as the verification of the city and the maintenance of the historic values.
So the City Commission recently passed some changes that are going to take place for the zoning on Miracle Mile.
Yes, it's unfortunate. So, I was in every single meeting that they had on this issue. We're going back, on this particular issue, going back to since October when the rezoning of Miracle Mile and the rezoning came in. But even before then, since last year in March, I've been trying to attend to every single meeting. I think I've attended over 90% of them. And the issue that comes to play is residents truly don't want this out of scale development going in Miracle Mile. And although the commission to their credit, did modify the original proposal that came in front of them. They still felt that the upzoning had to happen. And my general sense is that's not correct. That, essentially it becomes a developer giveaway if you allow for this extra modification of the mile, this extra alternative that will have no parking in front of the mile.
What does that mean, no parking?
You're going to have to put all you're going to have off-site parking.
Right now, there's, forgive me, I forget it. Is that angled parking now or parallel parking?
Well, there used to be angled parking. It was the original concept that was put together, back when the mile was originally designed. But what happened is when the streetscape that occurred, I think 2015, 2016, it cost about $25 million for the city to put together. When that occurred, they got rid of all they got, I think, 96 parking spots. That created a need for there to be offsite parking, and there's plenty of offsite parking on the mile itself. And there are two parking garages on the south side, and then two large parking garages on the north side. Problem is, if I am a shopper, if I am going on to shop on the mile, if I'm going to go eat on the mile, a lot of folks are going to be working and eating there. And if I'm coming directly there, I have to park in the garage, come down, go across the street, and go to the front. And that seems to be not the natural way in which folks do that anymore. What they're doing is they're increasing the mile from the existing structures that are there today, and the mile is doing fine. I mean, COVID has really created a problem that there's some vacancies, I believe over about 39 to 40% of vacancies, which is not great, but it's still a vibrant place, still a great place where people still go to. People go to restaurants, go to activity. But what I would like to see is what happened in Geralda, that the city took steps to revitalize the entire area and make it a destination place, which a lot of folks go to, and it's a beautiful place now that seems to be the worst of COVID, not seems to be over, but we're going every step towards a day in which COVID won't be as present and concerned as it was in the past.
In a month or two, it's going to be looking a whole lot brighter. Yes.
I mean, fingers crossed.
So are you
right?
saying that on Miracle Mile, whatever parking spots are there are going to be gone?
It's not that they're going to be gone. They're going to be there. The problem is what the concept that they're trying to implement is a situation where you'll have someone pick up your car from the front of the shop, and a valet service, and it will be put someone in the back. Okay, but that's not necessarily what the requirement is. They're saying you don't have to have parking in front of you. There's no requirement in order for you to build higher here to have parking in front of it. You can essentially allocate your requirement for parking to the back, so there's no longer an on-site parking requirement.
So the space that's excuse me, that's there now, is there going to be more walking space there, or is it going to be structures there?
What will happen is on the 3.5 FAR, essentially three and a half floors. Okay, what will happen is that unfortunately, even though there will be a setback, okay, the historic structures that are there in the mile, that are essentially one-story buildings, will become 3.5 stories, and you will have residential space in the top. Which essentially completely changes what the mile is today. At least the historic nature of what I knew to be Miracle Mile when I moved here over 12 years ago, 11 years ago. And I think we lose the character of the small scale line street on the mile itself. And that's what the commission passed, by the way.
So just so the residents know, when the development starts, the neighbors can have some input into the discussion.
Right.
They may not be able to change it a lot, but maybe there can be some adaptations that the developer might listen to because they don't want to have to deal with the grief.
The experience has been the opposite. The experience has been the developer comes in, and if 3.5%, 3.5 FAR is what's allowed, they want 6.5%, 6.5 FAR, essentially 6 stories. But then, they'll give us a little patch of grass, 3 blocks away, to compensate for the extra amount that they're giving us. They put a cap. So theoretically, if the commission sticks to that cap, okay, there will be nothing that can be done by any developer to upzone it higher. But unfortunately, the experience has told us that the commission doesn't stick back at a gap. So you're allowing for the destruction of the existing look of the mile by virtue of passing this.
So that's
rezoning.
pretty standard. But this is the zoning says this is how high you can go. You go and you ask for more, right? And then maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't.
You won't. And unfortunately, the experience has been lately that the answer to every possible question is yes. So my hope is that the voters, and it's present of mine, a lot of voters. I can tell you the vast majority of them really have a problem with the way the mile has been done, with the way the commission has approached this, and with the overgrowth and development. I mean, the Agave project, which, it aesthetically is not necessarily a bad project, but if you look at the height that is out there, you're talking about a 220-foot tower in front of a 1,700 square foot little house. Okay. Yes. And that, if that's not out of scale,
let's talk about city parks.
Sure.
People, of course, in the downtown, all that construction is probably going to go on. But there are plenty of people, whether they're 25 years old or 65, enjoy parks for a variety of reasons. What work is going to be done on parks in the next couple of years? What would you like to see done?
Well, I want to follow the leadership of Commissioner Mena and Commissioner Force, as well as Vice Mayor Lago, who likely be Mayor Lago once election happens. So what has occurred is that we have created what we call pocket parks. Okay, so essentially it's a lot within a neighborhood. It doesn't have parking. It's supposed to be a neighborhood park that you go to, and they have designated these areas for there to be open to parks you bring your children to have a little play area. You can bring you can sit down and read a book. That is, and they have done it in small lots, anywhere between 10,000 square foot to 6,000 or 7,000 square feet. I would like to expand that, but what I also would like to do is some of these existing green areas that we do have, especially the little park that's in front on my street on Casilla, right there by Alhambra Circle, which have been neglected. In other words, they're cities parks that the city does own, but they just open green spaces. They don't have a sitting area. They don't have, they may have a little doggy baggage station. But I want to expand the tree canopy in those areas. There's another small park right in front of the Chinese village. And I want to create a sitting area with a nice tree canopy for folks to be able to go to and truly enjoy a park. I'm no architect. I'm a boring CPA, right? But my sense is, there are smarter people than me that can visualize what a park should look like, how it's usable, how it has maximized the utility of the park for the use of neighbors. And my goal will be to expand as many of those as possible. I think folks have a need to be outside, to be able to run, to walk, to enjoy the greenery that is unique to the city of Coral Gables. That one of the reasons we moved to the city of Coral Gables is a beautiful tree canopy. And we should have more chances to be able to enjoy that than just walking our sidewalks. I think there's plenty of open spaces that can be utilized.
There's no question when people can be around living green things,
yes,
that people feel better. Just a very calming effect. All right.
I agree.
And I know out in horse country where I live, I'll go to some of the plant nurseries out there. I'll get on their golf cart and I'll drive around. All right. Just drive through it. And it's very relaxing.
And I think, some of the stuff doesn't have to be so tailored, right? Some of the natural beauty of an area can also be very pleasant and something to enjoy. I mean, we have a place up on the water in Vero Beach. And besides the beach, there's a couple of natural reserves that are nearby, and just walking path, and you're just enjoying the sun and enjoy. So some of that can occur in the city of Coral Gables, but I think the city's built out. I think that the chances for Matheson Hammond West Park or something like that to continue to be a walkable place still there for some folks that want to enjoy it, because it's a beautiful a beautiful park that's owned by the county. But in the neighborhood areas, the neighborhood sections where folks have the most need for a recreational space to put children to have a place to just relax and unwind. So the children are not looking at an iPad. They get to actually be in a park and play with grass and dirt and the things that make us human. Okay.
Yes.
That is what's required, and that is what folks want.
Let's talk about sea rise, right? You mentioned about
Yeah.
changing. What is the city looking at now and the near future?
Sustainability has been a big concern for Commissioner Lago and for the for Vice Mayor Lago and for the commission. So they have done things what I think are on the edges of the practical of what they can do. So they have tried to improve our fleet. So this is green. Most of it is on electric cars. They have they have enforced code changes so that we build with better greener materials. They have encouraged and they declare a climate emergency. But the reality is that the sea level is going to continue to rise. So we need to move folks out of septic tanks so we can preserve the bay and connect it into a typical sewer system. I think that's going to be the next challenge that the city will have to tackle in the next 4 years at the very least, and probably longer since we have such a large footprint and such a small area that is actually connected to the sewer system. So that will be the first environmental challenge that we'll have. Second, and more importantly, we have to do something about lifting the areas that are in the low-lying areas of water, because 60 years from now, those areas will be underwater. Okay, so either we determine that they're not going to be places where people can live, which I don't think is a choice. Or we're going to go ahead and organize our zoning code, organize our infrastructure on our roads, because those neighbors, I can tell them, Bay Gables by the sea, by the smaller communities down near the bay and Coco Plum areas, they're genuinely concerned that they're going to have water seepage into their homes. They're going to have seepage of intrusion of salt water, and some of them already have it into their sewer lines, and that is what's creating a lot of the stressors. At least when you talk to those neighbors about what the future is going to look like for them, because you're talking about $1 million homes here who are at risk.
There's certainly a lot of aspects. So the part that's relevant to me, when I look at, there's 120,000 more or less septic tanks in Miami-Dade County.
Right.
Well, they have to be hooked up. When they get hooked up, they have to hook up to some pipes.
Right.
Currently, at some point, are decades old. Right. So that is a combination of things, and it's billions of dollars. And the Army Corps of Engineer is working on some plans, which I heard was woefully inadequate.
Right.
And the sales job we're only going to need to do something about 2 feet. I've been told it's really 5 feet. Mm-hmm. And that at the end of the day, when it starts to work on, sort of like those developers, okay, it's 8 stories, all right? Right. We really want 10.
Right.
So, but whatever it takes, because we look down in the Keys and they've adapted, right? Which is, okay, we're going to have our homes, they're going to be up, right? I know there's places on the beach where they're starting to do that. And I know down in the Keys, they're on some of those roads, the main road, I think they're raising that, all right? And there's some areas that can continue to flood, and the next 5 years will be all more telling. And so the people 10 years ago when they were talking about it, nobody believed it. No. So now I think we're beginning to believe it.
Well, it's not so much believing it. I think more than anything else, if it affects your pocket, okay, if it becomes a truly financial consequence for you, the worth of your home, I think folks tend to get practical about problems, because there's and the issue with this debate is always we're looking at sort of this ephemeral idea of saving, when it becomes a situation or a problem you have to deal with and there's a solution you're trying to give it, I think it becomes something folks, okay, what can I do? Don't just give me a problem. Give me a way to reach a solution so that I can achieve something. And look, there was never a guarantee that the water line was going to stay anywhere, right? The world has moved. It's just it's part of our national topography that was going to happen. Problem is, we built this in front of it, and we need to adjust.
And I'm looking over there, seeing something similar. Whoops.
We'll need to adjust, and like everything else, humans are resilient. Humans are adaptable. And there is nothing. I don't think there's anything that can be said about the ingenuity of the human endeavor and the human history. So I am fully confident that the solutions will be there and technology will get us to the very end. But I humbly suggest that to modify some of the changes. Hopefully, this infrastructure bill that's supposed to be passing through Congress actually does come through, so that we can utilize some of those federal dollars along with state dollars and county dollars to fix some of these changes and make Miami a livable not only for today but also for the coming generations.
When we look at folks, we never should underestimate the ability of anybody. Yeah. And we look to the what used to be a quirky guy, Elon Musk. Was that his
yes,
name?
yes.
10 years ago, people were laughing. 8 years ago, people were laughing. All of a sudden, I couldn't figure out if it was a car company, a battery company, right, whatever it was, right? And I knew we talked to us before. He sends his rocket ship up with this in a car. And 25 years ago, we would have laughed at somebody like that. No, the world is full of innovators, right, and there can be lots of changes. And I, along with you, have faith in mankind that we're going to figure out a solution.
No, and it's, I drive a beautiful Volvo today, but the car that I always have, the antique car, it's one of these large Lincolns, and it's a '93. It consumes gas more than it should. I barely drive it. I can put a battery in it and take away the engine if I want to. Okay. And you can adapt the vehicle to that so that it becomes greener more than anything else. So that is an alternative that most folks can enjoy for the future. And I think that's what that we're going to be at. I think a lot of these emissions will be, will become carbon neutral sometime in the near future. I mean, only more than that, my children, my 6-year-old and my 9-year-old, this will be the challenge of their lives. Okay, it will be for their children's lives, but this will be the thing that they're going to have to endeavor into. And the capacity for Americans and this country to move forward and to find solutions to problems. If we beat the Germans in World War II, we can definitely tackle this issue. So
again, Javier Banos, he'd like your vote, and in a second, I'm going to ask you to speak to two things: one, why people should vote for you, and two, speak to a young person about the future. And it's been sort of, in the last year, it's been sort of tough. Right?
Yes.
And right after that, we're going to sign off. And I want to thank you for being here, for being our guest.
Appreciate it, Mike.
And you have a very calm persona. So my hat's off to you for doing that.
You.
And which camera should he talk to, Tommy? This one right here.
This one right here. Well, folks, thank you very much for your time today. If you have not made a decision on who you're going to vote for the City of Coral Gables Commission, I will humbly ask for your vote. With me, you get someone who's committed to public service, whose only desire is to serve you for the next 4 years. I'm not looking to be, the next anything. I just want to be your commissioner and to serve my neighbors, because the commission should be your neighbors serving your neighbors. I want to expand your parks. I want to make sure we have a better fiscal house. I want to make sure that we prep for the future. So that is what you will receive with Commissioner Banos. And once again, the election is April 13th. Early voting is April 10th and 11th, and there'll be a second round more than likely on April 27th. So I will again ask for your vote. For the young person, you said, it has been the most trying year for anyone who's in their teens, in their 20s, even in their 30s. I think it was a very trying time 10 years ago when we had a recession and I was in the same situation. The future is always brighter. There's always a better day tomorrow. That's the way you approach life. And if you do that way, you don't get down in your dump. You move on, and you have the fortitude of the conviction of what the future looks like. That's a way to approach your problems. So always be optimistic. Always look at the glass half full. There'll be a better day for all of us. Thank you.
Javier Banos, candidate for City of Coral Gables Commission, would sure like your vote. Folks, have a great day, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Community News. And Tommy, thank you for producing the show. And hello to Brother Grant off screen there as our live studio audience today.
Thank you.